Well, good afternoon here. It's early on a Monday, and I've been wanting some dried beans. So what I'm going to do, a lot of people like the dried beans. A lot of people don't know how to cook them. They prefer to buy the canned ones. You just buy a small can for $1.10 or something, and you've got your little couple of cups of pinto beans. But there are some people who like the home cooked pinto beans, what we grew up on. I'm sure most of you are like me. You grew up on that. So I'm going to show you all how I make pinto beans. There's lots of ways that people do it. As I've told you before, I show you what I do, what I know how to do, what I've been taught to do. You may have a better way, and by all means, that's what you should do if that's what you're comfortable with. I have never been comfortable with crock pot cooking, and a lot of folks like to use the crock pot to make the beans. They can put them in there, go off, and forget it for a while. And I guess I'm a controlled person. I'm a control freak, and that's what I don't like, walking off and forgetting it. So I'm going to show you all how to go ahead and make some dried beans today, some pinto beans. And I'm also doing something else. I am going to make pickled beets. I've got a friend needing some pickled beets. I made some last year, and I've had a request for some more. So we're going to do that as well today. So let's just get into our beans. We're going to put them on first and let them get started. And then I'm going to show you what I need to do to start these beets. So I have got... this is almost 3 pounds of pinto beans. I'm not going to cook all 3 of them. I'm going to cook, just a little bit more than half of them. Just about half of them is all we need. So that's a little over a pound. It's 2 pounds and 7.7 ounces or whatever. So, and what I do, and I'm sure if you've ever watched your mom or your grandmother make dried beans, you've seen them do the same thing. I'm going to do what they call look your beans. I'm looking these beans. I make sure, because of the process, a lot of times when they get them out of the fields and all, there'll be a little rock here or there, and we don't want to be biting into a rock, do we? So all I do is put mine on a cookie tray or a sheet pan, and I just go through here and make sure that there are no rocks here or there or anything that I don't like. If a bean doesn't look good to me, there's one that's got a little black spot on it, and I'm not having it, so I'm laying that out. And there's one all shriveled up. It's probably not even good either. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there it is. But anyway, this is what I do first. I look my beans. And that's what most people do. I remember one time when I was in grammar school. Well, I'll say it was grammar school back then. I was in the 7th or 8th grade. And a friend of mine, we had beans, and a friend of mine bit into a rock, and she took it up there and just fussed at we were at school, and she took it up there and just fussed at the cafeteria lady, and the lady says, well, hadn't you ever found a rock in your beans at home? And she told her, no, I haven't. My mother looks her beans. So I don't know why that stuck with me, but I remember that. Now, I've got some clear water in this pot. Now, I've looked at those beans, and I got anything out there I didn't like. Wasn't much. Any more today, it's not so bad. You don't have to worry about that so much. But anyway, now I'm going to wash my beans. I'm just going to swizz them around in this cool water and get them clean, and then we're going to drain them. And this is a very simple thing to do. The worst part of it is it does take a little time. So, now we're going to drain them right here. And put some more water in your pot, because you're going to need some. And I put, this time I'm going to put hot water in my pot, because I want them to start boiling in a hurry. Because I let them boil for anywhere from after they come to a rolling boil, I let them boil anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, and then I drain them again. You'll notice if you do that, there is a whole lot of, there's something I don't like. There's a whole lot of green liquid that boils out of there, and I don't like that. I don't like that one little bit. And I pour that off. Now, I know this is the same thing as parboiling. A lot of people will put their beans on the night before and let them soak all night. You know, I don't know why I don't do that, but I like the idea of boiling that green stuff out of the beans. But I'll show you what that looks like. Now, there's something floating, and I don't want nothing floating in here, so I'll put that around. So I'm just going to put this right here on the stove. I'll turn you around for a minute and let you see what I'm going to do. I'm going to move this skillet, put it back there, and I'm going to put this, I think I'm going to use this eye. I'm going to use, because I want that eye, the bigger eye for my beets. Okay, so I've got that on high, and we're going to let that, this come to a rolling boil. Then we're going to let them cook about 3 minutes, and then I'll take them off, drain them, put them back in the pot. Okay, now here are my beets. Now the first thing you buy, now you can get these at a farmer's market if you can find them. A lot of times you see this on top of the beets. Well, that's where they grow up, and they, before they got trimmed, they had leaves, big leaves, and you can cook those leaves. You can clean those leaves up and cook them like greens if you've a mind to. But you cut them off within about 1/4 of an inch. You don't want to get all the way down in here. You don't want that. Let me show you. I saved a couple just to show you. I just take my kitchen shears and cut them off about, see that? Just about like that. I saved a couple. And we want it to be about 1/4 inch. That may be a little bit more, but it doesn't have to be exact. There you go. Now, the end here, you see that it looks like a tail, doesn't it? Well, we're not going to cut that off just yet. That will be cut off, but it's not going to be cut off right now because if you cut down into the flesh, your beet will bleed. It will bleed that pretty purplish, reddish juice, and you don't want it to bleed yet. You want to save as much of that as possible, so we don't want it to bleed in this first cooking. So we're not going to cut them or anything. We're going to leave them just like this. See, most of them have a tail on them. And I've washed them, I've had them soaking in this water for a few minutes. And most of them have that tail. You're not going to cut that off because we don't want it to bleed. We're going to leave it just like that. And you'll see I've got different sizes, okay? So what I'll have to do is keep an eye on. I'm going to put them all in the same pot. I could separate these beets. I sure could. I'm not wanting to wash all them dishes. So I'm putting them all together. I'll keep an eye on these little ones. When they get tender, I'll take my spider and pull them out and go ahead and start the process. But do not cut these beets yet. If you're getting ready to do some, don't cut them. So I'm going to go ahead and take them out of this water. You know, beets, you've got to clean them good because they'll taste just like dirt if you don't. So let me pour this water off, and I'm going to run a little bit more clear water through there. Yeah. Now, these are clean, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to run this water, especially around the top, because that's where a lot of that dirt hides in and around where the stems come out. Well, I don't know why I'm doing that. Let me put them right here. I've got my pot ready right here. And like I said, these beets are clean. And I can hear hear the dirt in the skillet, in the sink where I've cleaned these 2 or 3 times. I can hear that when I'm pulling this colander around. You can hear it. It's kind of like sand. Now let's see here. You put a little bit more water in here. Now, those little ones are not going to take any more than about 20 or 30 minutes to cook. Those big ones are going to take a little bit longer. So what I'm going to do is put these on, let them get started boiling. Let me go ahead and turn them on. Let me turn you around and let you see. You can see that now. There we go. Now I'm going to turn these on high, let them get up to a rolling boil, and let me find the lid for both of these pots. There's that lid. That didn't take long, did it? Now let me get the other lid. Did you all know that when you use pots with lids, did y'all know it boils quicker? It keeps that heat in there, and when the heat builds up quicker because the lid's on it, and I always use a lid, always. I know a lot of people don't, but I do. If you don't like it, then don't use it. That's what I have to say. Just don't do it. But I always use a lid. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put you on hold just a minute. When these beans get up to a rolling boil, I'll bring you back on and show you. Give me just a... Okay, I'm back. I want to show you. Let's just see. I'll tell you what. I'm going to pick this up and turn it around and show you these beans. Oops, 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 oops. How they're boiling. You see that? Doesn't that look good? Now I've let them boil a minute or so. We're just going to give them another minute, and I'm going to pour them off, and I'll show you what that liquid looks like. So I'm going to put you back on hold for just a minute. Let me move this over there, and we'll come back and I'll show you. Okay, I'm back. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour this hot liquid off, and I'm going to save it in a clear bowl. I'm going to show you what it looks like. I'm rinsing them off a little bit. Okay, let me move these. And this liquid is not as green as it is a lot of times. It's sort of a brownish color. Let me pour some of it off so I don't fool around here and get burned. See, that's a reddish brownish color. You see that? Well, I don't want that in my beans, so I poured that off. Okay? I read years ago, you know, people talk about having gas when they eat beans. And I read somewhere a long time ago that that liquid is possibly what gives people gas. So you should get it off. And you know, when you soak your beans overnight, you always dump the water off. You don't ever use the same water. So that's all I've done. Now I've put my water back in here. You see that? And before I set these back on it now, there's a big debate right now as to whether or not to add salt now or not. I add my salt now. I'm taking all these floaters that I call them off the top here. I add my salt right now. I want those beans to have salt all the way through them, and I'm thinking if you wait till they're almost done, that salt won't penetrate all the way through, and your beans will not be as seasoned as I want them to be. So I'm going to start with a little bit of this kosher salt. I'm going to add about a tablespoon. My thing's busted there. I'm going to add about a tablespoon right now. And later I'll taste them and I'll adjust that if necessary. That's a tablespoon of kosher salt. Now, I want to show you what I go ahead and I put my seasoning in too, and this is what I'm using. Now what this is, and I've chopped it up pretty fine because I wanted it chopped up fine. This is what I have, okay? You can use beef, any kind of beef fat you want to, a piece of beef. You can use a bone. You can use chicken wings or turkey wings or whatever. Pork. This is pork. 4th of July, we had pork barbecue. We had ribs. And when we trimmed up the ribs before we cut them, I told my son-in-law, he did that, saved me that fat because I knew I'd be able to do something with it. You can use bacon grease. I will tell you, the best seasoning for dried beans, hands down, I'm not kidding, is something with a bone in it. If you've got a ham bone left over from a holiday or just because you had a ham, that is the very best thing you can season your beans with, is something with a bone in it. That bone marrow leaches out, and that just gives your beans an altogether different flavor. And let me encourage you, you folks that love to have that 5 bean or 15 bean soup, what it is that cook, those are all dried. Find you a bone, a ham bone. If you can't be eating the ham, then put your turkey leg in there. The bone, I promise you, makes all the difference. I don't have a bone right now, or it'd be in this pot. So let me put this back on the eye. And I'm going to turn you around again. I want to show you something else. Okay, here we go. I want you to look at that. That's our beets. See how good they're boiling? That's them. Let me take that lid off. That's our beets boiling. And we're going to let them get tender. And when they get tender and cooled off just a little bit, I'm going to turn this eye down just a little. When they get tender and I'll come back on here and show you how to peel them. That peeling should just slide right off. It shouldn't be any trouble at all after those beets get done. But we'll come back on here and I'll show you how to pickle beets. I'll show you what you do to pickle them, what you add, and I'll show you all that. So I'm going to let this stuff be cooking. I'll come back in a little bit and show you these beans. The beans you have to check on every 15 or 20 minutes. It's going to come back to a rolling boil. The beans will. When they do, I'll turn them down to a simmer and I'll let them simmer until they get tender. And the only way for sure to know that is we're going to taste one and make sure they're tender and good and they've got the right kind of seasoning. Folks, when you cook, you've got to be tasting your food. You really do. And I'll show you how we do these beans. Right now, I'm going to put you back on hold and I'll come back on here in a little bit. Okay, my stuff's still cooking, but I wanted to come on here and show you all a little something. I'm going to just turn you down. You won't see me, but you'll hear me. I want to show you what I'm doing here. Let me bring this back up a little bit. Bring it right down to where I'm working here. Let me move this over a little bit. You can see better. I've got not enough stuff over here. I'm not got enough counter space. Okay, this is just a little piece of cheesecloth right here. This is going to be my spice bag to go in my pickled beets. Here I have got 2 cinnamon rounds, sticks. And to that, I'm going to add, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to go ahead and add about 9, 10, 11, 12, about 14 whole cloves. They're whole cloves. I hope you can see that. Let me see. You should be able to see that. I'm just going to add that right in the middle. Alrighty, and I'm going by recipe now. I'm not just making this up, but you could if that's what you want to do. Now let's see here, and I need 1 teaspoon of, and I'm going to add a little bit more because I'm making a few more than it calls for. You know, I've told you all I do what I want to. Give me just a second. Let me get my teaspoon out. I should have already had it out. All right, and this is pickling spice or allspice. You can do either one. I prefer the pickling spice, and I'm just going to do about 1½ teaspoons is what I'm putting in there. Okay, now when I put my, mix up my vinegar and sugar and water together, I'll be dropping this down in there. And we're going to let this cook in there. We want that sugar to melt, to dissolve, and we're going to be cooking this for about 5 minutes. Then this will get discarded. We won't use this again. And I didn't have any string up here, so I'm just using a piece of this cheesecloth. So let me just tie this, and I'll show you what it looks like. And it don't look the best, and I know it. So y'all can tell me now that should have looked better, and you're right, it should have been, but it didn't. This is what it is. So, and this is the pot I'm going to do it in. This is the pot I'm going to do it in, so I'm just going to drop that down in there. Let me get my sugar out, and we'll go ahead and do this part, and then we can go ahead and, this is my sugar, and let me get my measuring cup here. All right, it calls for 2 cups of sugar. That's what I'm going to use. Two cups of sugar. We're just going to pour that in there. And move this out of the way. And we're going to use 3.5 cups of this vinegar, and it's 5% acid. So acidity, I guess is how you say that. 5% acidity. That's what it needs to be. And this is, and we're going to use about 2 cups of water. Let me put, this is white vinegar, as you can see. All right, we're going to put 3.5 cups in there. So this is a 2-cup measuring cup. So that's 2 cups and 1.5. There you go. And that's what that's going to take. Now, if I've got more beets than this will cover, then I'll have to do this over again. I'll have to make up another batch and do it in 2 batches, but that's okay. It's hard sometimes to weigh, especially where you're buying them. You know, if you can't get a good weight and they've got leaves hanging on them, it's just hard to do. So this is the basics. This is what you do. So I'm going to put you back on hold, and I'll come back on here in just a few minutes and show you what the beets look like. The beans are good. They're cooking. I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, I've got some of my beets out. Let me move myself here a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. And here they are. And I just wanted to show you how easy that comes off. That peeling just slides right off. Now, we'll tell you something about working with beets. Use something, you don't care what it looks like when you get finished, because you see that beet juice. Now, that's a pretty color. And if you like that color, you want everything to look that way, then you go ahead and use anything you want to. My hands will probably be that color when I get through. But, you know, that's just something I can deal with. I'm going to go clean a house tomorrow, and I guess the bleach will take it off. All right. See how good that's coming off? Now I'm just putting them, and there's that tail that come off. Now the big ones are still in there, still simmering. They are not quite ready. So I just took the smaller ones out. They're all fork tender, and I'm just peeling them here. And then we're going to slice them and put them in the jars and pack them. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to can them. We're going to do the hot water bath. Most things, a lot of things, you have to pressure. But because of the acid in the vinegar, tomatoes you can hot bath. Anything with a lot of acid, pickles, you can hot bath. But green beans and several things like that, you have to pressure. Any kind of meat, you have to pressure because there's no acid in there. Now, doesn't that look good? All right, I'm going to put you back on hold while I get these peeled, and I'll be back in just a minute. Well, I think I'm going to put... Okay, I'm back. My beets, I've got them cooled off. I've got them peeled. Not all of them. The great big ones, I've still got two in the pot cooking because they're just so big. So I wanted to show you how I cut these. I just cut these little beets in thirds, like that. Flip them over. Cut them in half that way. And again in half that way. And this is what your beets are going to look like. That's what they look like. And I'm just putting them in my pan. And I've got 2 jars already, put 2 pints already fixed. I'm going to show you how to do a pint. Then we're going to put them in our hot water bath. I'm trying not to get this video so long. When they're too long, the videos are too long, I have to double up because it won't, for whatever reason, it won't let me put the whole video on. Okay, so here's my pint jars. Now, you got to sterilize your jars and your lids. I put the lids in boiling water till they get hot. The jars, you can put in the dishwasher and sterilize them. You can pour boiling water over them in the sink. That's what I did. So, let me show you what we do. We just fill our jar up with these beets. We've already got them cut here. And we're going to leave about 1 inch of head space on these near the top. We don't want them to get too full. That's just about right, if you can see that. Now, here's our hot liquid. You watched me do it. Okay. And I just pour that in over the beets. Just like so. Till it's about 1 inch. Then I just take a little knife. They make little plastic wands to do this. I don't have one right now, so I'm just doing that. Make sure that's about 1 inch away from the top. Then you get your lid out. And you go around the top of your, to make sure there's nothing on there. Put your lid on and screw it on, okay? So right now, I've got about 3 pints ready, and I'm gonna go ahead. I've got my hot water bath working. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up these